My 18 female, mom, 40 female. Left me when I was 10 and my aunt, 45 female. Claims my dad lied about why. Tried to paraphrase and make this make sense. Sorry if I didn't. And sorry if the title doesn't make sense. Hopefully did the throwaway thing this time. My mom left my dad when I was 10 and took my younger brother, Max 6 then, with her. She'd promised to visit but never did, and my dad decided it wasn't worth losing custody of me over chasing her even if it broke him to lose my brother. My dad dated other women but there was never anyone serious, so I've ended up having to be quite self-sufficient since then as I was 10 and he was a mess. My maternal aunt, Sam, would appear every so often but we would avoid the elephant in the room and she'd take me out on a trip to the zoo or to get pizza. Dad really didn't like her but he didn't stop me seeing her and we just sort of agreed not to talk about mom. It was shit and I was sad but I got over it. If she wants to fuck off with some random affair partner or whatever she can. She'd clearly decided who she wanted and who she didn't. Max looked more like her or maybe she just really wanted a son. It was worst when I was 16. Dad said she promised she'd come and bring Max for my birthday and so he let me have a private party the day before. Just us and eventually them. They never showed up and I cried as I turned 16. So that really extinguished any hope I had regarding her not being evil or whatever. Anyway, I dealt and recently I started working at the pizza place my aunt takes me to. It's apparently where we used to go when I was little but I don't really remember, but it gave me a good answer for the job interview at least. So I'm working. Thursdays aren't exactly busy and I finish early anyways as I've got school tomorrow when a kid walks in. Bit odd but whatever. I ask him if he has a reservation, is part of a group or if he's by himself. He sort of frowned and said he was by himself. No biggie. I sat him down in one of the corner booths and grabbed the dirty dishes from the next table. The kid orders and just looks grumpy the whole time so I left him to it. You don't really expect tips from kids anyways. And so I finish up my shift, kid's still eating his pizza. And I'm getting in my car in the parking lot when I hear a voice behind me, "Op?" And it's the weird kid from before. I'll be honest, I don't really pay much attention to how customers look as there can be dozens of them in an hour and they blur together. But out in the parking lot I did recognize him and felt stupid for not realizing before. It was Max. And I really don't know how I felt. Happy, angry, worried. He's 14, he shouldn't be out and about by himself and last I'd heard he was on the other side of the country. I go to hug him and I start telling him how happy Dad will be but he flinched back. He looked upset. I tried to talk to him but he kept cutting me off to let him talk. So I did. And he starts yelling at me for being a bad sister and he's not going to see Dad and I am a bitch for ignoring him and I have no clue what's going on. We both start shouting over each other until he pushes me and the guy is a midget but he's got strong arms. I'm crying which is pathetic but my brother has just hijacked me outside my work, yelled at me for things I have no clue about and then shoved me over. He helps me up and asks again why I didn't come to see them. I told him, tried to do it gently because clearly he's going through something and I don't really want him to bolt. That it's hard to visit when your mom runs off in the middle of the night without so much as a letter and only takes one kid. I tell him to get in and he refuses to come with me so I phone Sam. She tells me to drive to hers as she's only 45 minutes out from the city. We get there. Sam hugs Max and says his mom is worried sick. I'm honestly just a bit shaken and I ask her if I can phone my dad now. Causing Max to start arguing again. I tell him it's not my fault if mom has lied to him or whatever but dad deserves to see him. Sam then steps in and says she doesn't think that's for the best and it's not what my mom would want. I'm confused because surely we shouldn't be trusting her judgment. And Max managed to run away so that's not great parenting. My aunt then tells me that my mom isn't on the other side of the country but she's only a few hours drive away. She says that she met my dad young and they had me pretty quickly. She says dad wasn't a good man and he was a bad partner and mom was depressed and he was mean and just starts saying a lot of stuff that I don't remember happening. Surely I'd have noticed if bad things were happening? Dad was a big softy my whole childhood. It was only after mom left he got quiet and sad. Whilst she never really bothered with me, he'd play with me. I love my dad, he's pretty much all I have, and considering my mom is basically crazy and cheated on him, I don't think she's an accurate source. I get my aunt wanting to protect her sister and not tell Max what a crazy person she is when he's run away from home or whatever, but I was freaking out and upset and so I just started driving. I left and went home and I'm assuming Max will be alright with Sam. Dad is away for work and won't be back until Monday so I have time to convince Max. I don't want to believe my aunt. I really don't. But I also don't want to cut off my chance at finally seeing my brother. So Reddit. What's the best way to balance this shit? I want a relationship with Max. I want my dad to actually get to see his son, as losing him destroyed him, but I don't want Max to freak out based on whatever he thinks happened. Is there a good way to slowly help him realize what mama's like? Or even just make him feel more comfortable about our dad? Too long did not read. Mom left with brother who has just reappeared into my life after running away for reasons I don't know yet. I think to see me. He won't let me take him to dad, and so I take him to my aunt, and she decides to make accusations about my dad instead of helping me. Now I don't know who's telling the truth or how to not lose my baby brother again. Is it possible Max is only a half-brother and that's why your dad has no right to custody? Max is only 14, and he was probably pretty clueless at 6. Heaven knows what he was told at 6. It's not likely that you have the whole story either. So when you're talking to Max, just let him talk if he wants to. Try to avoid arguing with him. Instead of contradicting him over something, at most say that it didn't look like that to you. Try to keep your focus on re-establishing your relationship with Max, and keep your father out of it for now. That can happen once you understand better where Max is coming from, and once he trusts you more. IDK sounds made up. There are a lot more issues here than you can see at the moment. Don't brush off your aunt's words, but don't believe everything against your father. He could have been a crappy husband but by your words a great dad. These are not the same things. Talk with your brother calmly as he is at really bad place at the moment. Explain clearly that you had no idea where they were or what was and is going on. Try to form a connection and speak to your dad. Maybe ask your brother for your mother's number to talk to her too. See what has led your brother to find you. Sounds like one of those posts. The updates goons be, oh my dad is actually super evil. So if this is real, I recommend talking to your mom, and your dad and aunt and asking hard questions about why shit the way that it is. 28M. Called my wife, 23F, abusive and cruel and now she won't speak to me. Question. Is my marriage salvageable with counseling and therapy? Too long did not read. My wife frequently will get angry and insult me over mistakes I make using profanity. She says she has no choice because she can't get through to me and says that I've been neglectful because I mess up on things we've talked about before. We're going into therapy, but I'm really starting to question if it will be enough. 28M, and my wife, 23F, have been having problems since late last year. We got married a year after we met and have been together about 2.5 years. Lately our problems have come to a head and the word divorce has been thrown around as well as the word abuse. We've struggled with communication before but now it's even worse. I had a birthday this month and she got me a great shirt from a store I've wanted something from for a while. She had to work on the day of my birthday and didn't get home to give it to me until late. She works long days on her feet and I told her I would help her clean up from baking me a cake since she was clearly tired. While cleaning, I threw away several Amazon boxes as well as the box from the store the shirt came in. I loved the shirt but didn't think we'd use the box again since it had another brand on it. She noticed I had done so and asked if I really threw it away. I asked if I wasn't supposed to. She became angry and told me, "Use your fucking head," and proceeded go say, "I won't thank you for shit the next time I need a box." I couldn't hold in. This really stuck with me. I welled up in the car and asked her why she had to be so cruel. She said that she didn't have any other options since I don't think and I clearly don't pay attention to the stuff she saves. I said she didn't need to treat me like an imbecile. She told me that if I didn't act like an imbecile she wouldn't treat me like one. I blew up and told her that this is horseshit and that she was abusive and cruel. During the ensuing fight that night I accused her of gaslighting me because she said in the past that things are all my fault and that I've ruined everything. She laughed at me and told me I didn't know what gaslighting was and said I was the one being abusive because I neglected her. She says she's given me plenty to work on, and I've failed at doing any of it right up to just communicating effectively. I've been seeing a counselor for the past several months and she proceeded to say that I can't even get things right with professional help and I had nothing to show for my time in therapy. She went on to say something that is common, that if this is my best, we're fucked. She said she hated me and that she's giving up hope. I told her that if she feels this way, how could she stay with me? If she doesn't have any hope that things will get better and hates me, then why stay married? She proceeded to tell me to go away. I tried to get her to keep discussing things with me but she said go away and held up her fingers to count how many times she had to say it. I got mad and mimicked her while walking away. She proceeded to flip me off, to which I responded, "Classy." She flew down the stairs with a packed bag and sped off in her car despite my best efforts to stop her. I called her stepdad to let him know she took off. He told me she was there and that he'd support us. We're going to see a counselor. The trouble is now she doesn't even speak to me. She says she's done and that this is our new normal until we talk to a counselor. She says she can't trust me to communicate without hurting her. I told her I didn't understand how that's the case and apologized for the part 1 play. She tells me it's all my fault and that a therapist will fix me so that I'm not ruining our marriage. Help me, is there hope? Dude. Just end the relationship. Believe it or not, this is not normal or healthy. It's pretty shitty, and the worst part is, most women out there wouldn't even take half as much effort to keep happy. Don't stay with people that treat you like this. She is abusing you verbally and belittling you. It's time to get a divorce lawyer. You are still young, you still have a lot in life, so don't get stuck in this marriage. And she has a lot of maturing to do. Question: is this the relationship you want to be in? Do you still want to be doing this in 5 years? 10 years? 20 years? Why are you here? Sounds like it's time to get divorced and move on. She's 100% abusive. She berated you for recycling? Then she said it's your fault she has to do it? That's textbook abuse. Write down all the incidents you can think of. Carry a voice recorder or place a hidden camera. You will need evidence for the divorce. There's no point in going to therapy with an abuser. They will not change and will likely use therapy speak to degrade you even more. My 36F and my partner's 32M home is not my house. So my 35F partner, 32M, came into some money and bought a house a few years ago. We were both in full-time school, so he paid cash and I did not contribute financially. From the beginning we did it together, picking a realtor, seeing houses, negotiating each of our must-haves, etc. He asked me to sit in on meetings with his financial advisor and we make decisions for our shared financial future. 6 months later we got engaged. From the time we moved in it's been our house, and we've worked on it together, decorated it together, renovated together, made all decisions as a team. We spend most of our days off DIYing all the shit we need to fix up. Financially he was paying the mortgage till I graduated and got a job, and now I pay half. I've invested my own funds in some of the improvements, but not a lot compared to him who has more ready money at his disposal. We've talked about renting it and buying a new one eventually, but are happy here for the moment. We each paid roughly half of expenses, and then got a joint bank account that we now co-fund for bills. You know where this is going. Today I learned that while he considers it, our house that we live in together, he considers it his sole financial asset. I feel like an absolute idiot. Of course it's his, he paid for it. When we talked about splitting the mortgage I did say that I was stressed about money, as half of a mortgage is more or about equivalent to what I would pay for my own place, and was worried getting myself in a bad financial predicament. And he was like, "I got you. You don't have to worry about money." He said this and many other things about us and ours, so I guess I just didn't realize he actually considers this his and not at all mine. For those of you who have moved in with a partner to their place, how did you take care of yourself, emotionally and financially? Clearly I need to start saving money to buy something of my own, but what else? Sorry for the long saga, just trying to explain as best I can where I'm at. ETA. He paid cash, 1/3 of the value, and has a loan for the remainder. Neither of us were working at the time, but he came into the cash, and at the time I was not useful to help qualify, which is why I was not on the mortgage. We have talked about refinancing but decided to wait for him to get out of school as his income will be better then. Again, I recognize that he paid for it. I don't feel entitled to ownership, but I do feel like we've been discussing it as a shared thing, which confused and disheartened me. At this point I am looking for advice as to how to best take care of myself, as I would not typically spend my weekends building fences and ripping out carpet, landscaping, laying flooring, and dealing with vendors in a house that is not mine. Apart from that, I am fine with paying rent, if that's what it is, but I would also expect that to be fair market value, not half his mortgage. If we broke up down after marriage I would walk away with nothing, and if I were single I'd be buying my own property and gaining equity over the years, with the same money I'm now putting into his equity. That doesn't seem fair or smart to me. I think you just need to communicate all of this to him. It sounds like you just have different ideas of how you are viewing finances. He probably has no idea where you are at with this. It is so important to get on the same page for the long-term health of your relationship. You need to discuss finances with him, Let him know that you need to save money to buy your own house. While you should definitely be paying for living there, he should be supportive of you saving enough money to buy your own property. Don't do wife things when you are a GF. If the rent you are paying is not within your budget, find a place that you can afford and move out. Each paycheck, put money into your savings account for a down payment for your place. There is nothing wrong with having your own space. He made the entire down payment and paid the mortgage all by himself at the start. Only recently have you been helping by paying some rent. Is this right? So how can it be a joint asset if he has made like 90% of the payments? I, 28F. Just got diagnosed with genital herpes and my boyfriend of 5 years, 34M, doesn't want to touch me. My boyfriend, 34M, of 5 years and I, 28F, just got back from vacation. While out of state, I noticed a really horrible itching and pain in my genital area. I wasn't sure what it was at first, but once I got home I took a closer look and noticed small blisters in a cluster. I immediately freaked out and told my BF, who was extremely suspicious and judgmental about it. He told me he had always been super careful and knew for a fact he didn't have HSV too. He asked if I cheated on him and I most definitely have not. We both have HSV1, so I was wondering if maybe it wasn't type 2 and I somehow gave it to myself down there. Shortly after our fight I went to a clinic and they confirmed with a swab it was HSV2. Before dating him, I wasn't one to sleep around. But I also think sex is important in bond building, so I wasn't abstinent with prospective partners or anything. I also used condoms for the first few times, but I think it's normal to stop after seeing someone more or less exclusively for a while. I told him I had never experienced an outbreak before in my life and that even though I wasn't as safe as I could have been, I've never slept with anyone who had an active outbreak. I know there are a lot of asymptomatic carriers and I might have gotten it that way and had it stay dormant for years. My mother has HSV too and I know it's also possible I got it from her during pregnancy, birth, but it's weird that I never had symptoms for 28 years. I did have extreme fatigue and lethargy as a baby and she had a few outbreaks leading up to delivery, so it kind of sounds like I could have gotten it from her? I feel like I'm floundering trying to find an acceptable excuse for why this is my new reality. I took daily antivirals for the past few years for my HSV1 until very recently when I noticed my immune system weakening. Stopping that for a month likely allowed the HSV2 to activate after who knows how long. My boyfriend decided to get a blood test to see if he gave it to me and we just got the results back. Turns out he was correct and does not have it himself. After this news I feel like I want to die. It probably sounds really dramatic, but I have pre-existing mental health issues and this is pushing me over the edge. I am overcome with guilt and shame over my past. I feel like I can't date anyone else again without being ghosted after telling them, and my current partner of several years doesn't want to touch me. This disease is so stigmatized it's almost a meme at this point, and misinformation makes the stigma even worse. In my BF's eyes I just made our relationship 1000x more difficult. We were having intimacy issues before and it finally felt like things were looking up during our vacation. Now we're back to square 100. I have a feeling we're going to break up over this and I was convinced this was the last relationship I would have. Too long did not read. I just found out that I have HSV too, not from cheating, and my boyfriend does not. We've been together for several years and now he looks at me like I have no morals and doesn't want to touch me. I'm also having dark thoughts about it. Just to give hope if this relationship doesn't make it. I have 2 friends with HSV. They have had relationships with educated people. There are dating sites for people with HSV. I'm sorry your boyfriend isn't more understanding. The stigma is starting to get better. There are plenty of people who wouldn't ghost you after disclosing or treat you the way your boyfriend has during a very difficult time for you. My boyfriend has the virus. After several months together I still do not. He told me very early on and taught me about precautions. I did on my own research on the risks. And I'm glad I didn't let a diagnosis make me miss out on my person. Your boyfriend seems like a jerk and no matter what happens between you, you will be okay. It's a diagnosis, not a death sentence. You will still experience great love and positive friendships and live a full and happy life. Herpes is a dermatological issue that was stigmatized as part of an ad campaign by a pharmaceutical company when they invented antiviral medicine for it. Hysteria to boost sales. The Medical History podcast, Sawbones, has an episode on it. I am sorry it happened. I feel like I'm floundering trying to find an acceptable excuse for why this is my new reality." You don't need to find an excuse. Lots of people carry HSV too and don't have outbreaks for years. The worst thing about herpes by far is the stigma. You didn't do anything wrong and you should not feel ashamed of this. This is not your fault. Your partner should be ashamed of his reaction, though. Imagine caring about a few itchy bumps and treating your girlfriend of 5 years badly because of it. Embarrassing behavior. He sounds like he sucks. If you've had it this entire time and he hasn't caught it, just keep doing what you're doing. It's obviously working.